Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have purchased a new display cabinet because my other cabinets are full. This one is a Pulaski Curio I got from Costco. Certainly isn't cheap, but I have seen some more expensive stuff out there and I think this one looks really good. Now you may have seen a previous video I made where I took a IKEA Detolf and modified it to have some extra shelves, some LED lighting, and some dust proofing, and I'm going to do some of those same features onto this cabinet. Now this one obviously has a light inside of it, but the problem is once you start filling up your shelves with your whatever you're displaying, by the time you get to the bottom shelves, all those shadows make it very, very dim. So we're going to put LED lights on every shelf. There's 5 of them plus the top roof on it, so that makes 6 strips of LEDs, and that should brighten it up quite a bit. The door slides in both directions, which is nice. It only opens up 50% of the way, which is not a big deal. There's still plenty of room. You can get your hand in there and do any adjustments you need to do. If you have it butted up against the wall, well, then it only opens up 50% in the one direction you can open it. It does have some pile weather stripping already applied on both sides, which is nice, but it's just not going to be good enough. We can improve on that to make it more dust proof. My first plan is to figure out how I'm going to do the wiring, and I think I'm going to put my hole down there and start the wiring so it comes up, runs across the bottom piece of glass, comes up, over, and you're getting the idea what the plan is, right? 5 pieces of glass plus the top, 6 LEDs, right? So I went on to Amazon and picked up some items to do this project. If anybody wants to replicate what I'm doing, they can go ahead and check the description for the links. First thing I have is the LED lights. I went with the bright white right here. These are a 2835 light. Now that means that these are quite a bit brighter, but they also use a little bit more electricity and they run a little bit hotter. So just be aware of that. I have run these lights on that Detolf case that I talked about earlier, and I really like them, so that's what I went with. The next thing I have is a bundle of wire. This is 20 meters or 66 feet long. It's obviously paired together. I wish it was black and black, not black and red, but you can't seem to find that, at least not on Amazon. This is 20 gauge wire. The reason why I went 20 gauge is because I'm going to be running this over a decent amount of distance. I want to minimize the amount of resistance in the wire. Even though on my Detolf case, I think I'm using 26 gauge wire without a hitch, but I do have that on 2 separate circuits. So I went with the 20 gauge just to be safe. So to connect it all to the glass, because I always make sure my glass is removable, since if I ever decide to move, I'm certainly not going to be moving that with the glass still in it. So these are these little connections right here that so I can unplug it, pull the glass out, do whatever I need to do. So again, it's red and blacks, which will make wiring pretty simple. Then I went ahead and bought these little rocker switches to turn it on and off. I went with this kit because it seems like it should be easy to plug into any kind of power adapter. That's the plug-in side. This will then go into this little piece right here, which is super simple, as then all I have to do is just put my wires into that end, screw them down, and done. So it seems like this would be a very simple kit, and we'll see how that works. So the last thing I got is the pile weather stripping. Now this is 1/4 inch tall hairs, which honestly might be a little too tall for how I intend on using it, but we'll see if it works, and I guess that means you're gonna have to watch through the video to see if this stuff's gonna be okay or if 3/16 is the way to go. But that's all the stuff I have, so time to get to work. Going about placing the LEDs on the glass, the first thing you're gonna do is wash the glass. I recommend using soap and water both sides because I always find there seems to be like a film of grease or something on it. I don't know what it is, but soap and water seems to take it off. Also wash your hands because you don't want fingerprints on it, or at least minimal amount. Then you're gonna go about figuring out your length of your LED strip. I'm going with basically the full width of the glass, which is 24 inches. And based on the cut marks on the LED strip, This is like 23.5 inches, which works out nice for me. You don't want to put it right to the edge. I don't think at least you'd want to do that because of when you solder on your joints. So you determine where. You also need to determine where in the glass you want to go. Once you have that figured out, you're going to want to mark it. Now this is the side that's actually opposite to what this is going to go on. And what you're going to do is you're going to measure. I've determined I liked 2 centimeters off the edge. With this line drawn, we can now mark it on the edges so we can have it centered. I find on mine it's a 3/8 spacing between each side. So we flip the glass over and we're ready to apply our LED strip. Now the reason why we put this marking on the opposite side is so we can wash it off later. If you put it on the side of your LED strip, if you cover it up, you'll never get it off and it will show through. So I highly recommend putting it on the opposite side. Now to lay this down as straight and centered as possible, I'm going to find a center point. I'm going to tear that. And then I'm going to pull this backing off, not to the edge though. We're going to stop about here. Okay. And then find your marking where you want to go. And then you can, this will get kind of sticky pretty quick, so be careful. Lay it down on the line where you want it. Okay. So now I can go ahead and solder on the wires. On the LED strips it tells you which side is positive and which side is negative. And because the wire is black and red, it makes it really simple. I put down a little piece of cardboard just to prevent any spills. I'm using a little gas-powered soldering gun with a relatively fine tip. Having a fine tip definitely helps. Make sure you don't start your cardboard on fire when you do this. Holding it with a pair of needle nose can be helpful to keep it nice and low. There we go. That is difficult to do on camera, but here we are. Simple enough. Now I can lift this up, pull the rest of this back, and I can place this down. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole through the floor of the cabinet. A 5/32 bit should be suffice, but just use a bit just large enough to get the wire through. So I've managed to attach all the LED strip lights to the glass, and I've installed it in the case, obviously. Some people may not like the orange stripe, I guess, that goes on the bottom of the glass because of the LED lights, but I personally don't mind it. I think it gives it some character, and once you've filled your cabinet with whatever you're putting in there, you hardly notice it anyways. The next thing I have to do is, let's see if I can get this to focus, is I have to measure to length the wires here, and then solder these together. And then once that's done, I can then go ahead and tuck it all in and make it look nice. One thing also I noticed is despite how many times you're going to, wash the glass and clean your hands, you're still going to have fingerprints. So finish it all up and then you can do a nice once over or a final clean once it's all done. So I've completed all the wiring and I have tested it out. It does work. There we go. As you can see, it made it much brighter. I think it looks all right. The next thing I need to do is finish tucking in these wires or hiding them, which all I do is I use some black electrical tape. That is half an inch thick or so. So some thinner electrical tape is definitely going to be beneficial. Speaking of wiring, putting these ends on to that 20 gauge wire and splicing it in, soldering, that was a pain in the butt. This is such a thin gauge. There's really only, you know, like 6 wires that come out of that, so that was not that fun to do. But we got it done. You can see down here, there we go, let's see. So you can see how it looks right there with it all tucked in. So, you know, it looks definitely a lot better than with the just plain red and black. So we'll get moving on that. And oh, the dust proofing. So to do this, the plan was to put that weather stripping pile along that seam right in here. Well, turns out that 1/4 inch is too thick. 1/8 might work, but I don't have any. So I might see if I can find some and see if it'll work. But I will be putting some right here in each of those 4 corners because that is a source of dust. So we'll just help that out by filling those gaps in. But I'd like to try something in there because I know dust can get in there as well. The last thing I'm going to show you here is the toggle switch. So you can see I used that, you know, adapter right here that the wire just screws into, nice and easy. Then it goes to your toggle switch, right? Oh, come on, focus. There we go. And then that goes to your power supply. As for what power supply to use, I recommend using something that has about 2.5 amps or so for something of this size. So I'm gonna finish it up, clean it up, and then we can pretty much call it done. All right, guys, I have it all finished up. You can see what it looks like with the factory lighting. And I have the light switches on the side, so it's easy to flip through them. You can see it's a lot brighter. I think it looks quite a lot better, in my opinion, and I look forward to putting some stuff in there. But I like having the choice of using the top light if I choose, or the LEDs, or both. The dust proofing, I don't think you'll be able to see it very well, but I did put those little weather stripping up there. It would be nice to have something go across that seam, but not too big of a deal. Another thing I should mention about dust proofing is that light right there does have holes on the top, and it will allow dust to get through. So you can cover that up with some electrical tape, but I think that would mean, at least in my opinion, you probably shouldn't run that light for too long a period because obviously those are probably there to allow heat to escape and whatnot. So that's up to you. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful and you can use some of these techniques on some of the cabinets that you might have, because really you can pretty much apply it to any cabinet you have. And I think the results, well, they kind of speak for themselves. So if you liked the video, thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and thanks for watching.